Hi everyone, it's Danny from Orchid Nature. Alrighty, so today we're going to discuss about yellow leaves. Everybody has trouble with this and everybody really panics when they see yellowing leaves on their orchids. And yeah, I can understand why. But I would like to make this video to show you the cases where it is actually okay to have some yellowing leaves and it's normal, and some cases where it's not that normal. Okay, so let's start with some Phalaenopsis orchids. Now, the rule of Phalaenopsis orchids is that after some years, or periodically maybe once a year, an orchid will shed the bottom leaves. This is not particularly good as an example because it is a kind of sick orchid, but healthy orchids do this as well. So the bottom leaves will periodically die off and the orchid will produce a new leaf right here. You can see another Phalaenopsis with the same thing happening here. So this is pretty normal. If you have two of the bottom leaves starting to die off, the very bottom of the plant, this is perfectly normal. You shouldn't worry about it. The orchid is just regenerating. A Phalaenopsis orchid will never have like a palm tree of leaves on the top. It will stay to a sort of a fixed amount of number of leaves. So if your orchid has a bottom leaf like this that is yellowing and looking very sad and actually comes off, this is normal. It's just a bottom leaf that is probably about 2 years old and it's time for her to die off, so the orchid can focus on putting out brand new, very healthy leaves. Now, the reason why Phalaenopsis orchids do this is because imagine in nature, the older the leaf is, the more it was prone to damages, burns, and so on. So the orchid prefers to shed it periodically and put out brand new leaves that are perfectly healthy and will function much better than the older leaves. So this is the reason behind it. This is why Phalaenopsis orchids shed bottom leaves. Now, if you'd have some leaves on the upper levels of the orchid, now this is a reason for worry. Usually they don't shed more than 2 bottom leaves at the time. If you see some other leaves from the top are starting to go yellow, it's a reason for worry, and the cause actually might be quite different, starting from pest damage to stem rot or even crown rot. If you see the top leaf, the very first one, if you see it's going yellow or brown, that's definitely crown rot, and that's definitely a reason for you to take action and try to stop spreading the fungus. But other than that, the bottom leaves falling off is really normal and you really shouldn't worry about it. If you're dealing with an Oncidium type of orchid or a Brassia or something that has pseudobulbs, it's really normal for the older leaves, the ones that are in the back of the orchid, let's say, opposite to the direction of growth, it's really normal for them to have yellowing leaves as well. The principle is the same. The orchid doesn't necessarily need these leaves anymore because they might be broken, they might be attacked, they actually do not perform correctly, and yeah, the orchid just regenerates. All it needs is the pseudobulb to retain moisture and nutrients for the upcoming growths. So if you see your Oncidium orchid has some yellowing leaves and these leaves are coming from an old pseudobulb, it's really normal for them to fall off and to yellow off, so don't worry. Sometimes these leaves as well will yellow, actually all of the times. In time these leaves will fall as well and you'll be left only with the pseudobulbs and brand new lovely shoots, so don't worry in this case either. Another instance where you really shouldn't worry if the leaves on your orchid start to fall off is when you're dealing with a deciduous Dendrobium. Now, deciduous Dendrobiums lose their leaves after one season and then they actually bloom, so that's a good thing. In my case, you can see here the older pseudobulbs have no leaves. Now, this didn't happen because the orchid was sick. It's supposed to happen. There are quite a few other orchids that do this, but mostly Dendrobiums do this, not all of them. So if you see that after one season the leaves on your orchid are starting to yellow and fall down, don't worry. Just make sure you do indeed have a deciduous Dendrobium, because this is its life cycle and it's really normal. And following the falling of the leaves, you will get beautiful blooms, hopefully, if you treat it correctly. However, if you have yellowing leaves on a Dendrobium that is still growing and it's not particularly deciduous, you might have other problems. If you see the top leaves and also the tips here get yellowed like that, you might actually have an infestation with spider mites. And I'll show you some footage of this orchid before I treated it. So you can see on the screen the spider mites actually crawling across the orchid, and also if you look very closely you can see the spider webs and all of that. Now spider mites are very tiny and very vicious. Not too hard to get rid of actually, but they're very vicious, and usually you don't see them until the damage is done. And if you leave it untreated, in one season they can actually kill off your orchid. So if you see an orchid that looks like this, look at it carefully, see if there are any crawlers on it, because you might actually have some spider mites. Now other signs except yellowing leaves are the undersides of the leaves. As you can see, I have a lot of discolorations and yellowish or white patches, very fine patches like this. This again is a sign of a spider mite infection, and you should definitely look out for this. Spider mites affect all types of orchids, not only dendrobiums. Dendrobiums are prone, but other orchids are as well, so be careful when you see signs like this. Now here's a reason for you to worry. If you see on your orchid that a yellowing leaf started to go brown like this, and also the pseudobulb of the orchid is starting to go brown or yellow or something like this, this is really not normal. The pseudobulb should have been green. Now in my case, this tells me that this orchid doesn't have too many good roots in the pot, and this particular pseudobulb was just depleted of energy. So I know what's happening to my orchid, but if you have a healthy orchid or an orchid you thought was healthy and you see something like this happening, it's not a good sign. It usually means there is a really big problem with the root system and probably the media, and you should definitely take a look to see how the roots are doing and if everything is okay, or you have a case of root rot. Another reason for worrying is to have brown or dark brand new leaves on the growth here. Now this dark color means that this brand new growth had some water trapped and it actually rotted. You will not probably be able to save this growth, but you can stop spreading and the growth can start to produce another growth of its own. Because this orchid was depleted of energy and it doesn't really have too many roots, this happens quite a lot, especially to Callia orchids. New growths die off if they get to rot. So be careful how you water them. If you see something like this, be careful not to leave any water standing in new growth. This will definitely lead to some crown rot or rotting of the entire orchid, especially if it's suffering. Yellowing leaf tips are actually associated with a bad media or too much fertilizer, or in any case something wrong with the root system. It's not always the case, but in many cases tips like this, especially on brand new leaves, usually means there's something wrong with the roots, and reasons may vary quite a lot, from dehydration, not enough watering, to too much fertilizing, too much watering, rotting, and so on. So if you see something like this, just keep an eye on your orchid, make sure the media is not breaking down, be careful how often you water it, and actually if things get better and your care gets better, the yellowing will stop. And for you to make this orchid prettier, you can just snip the tip of the leaf here, and the orchid will look pretty again, and the leaf might actually not get affected and die off if you just change your routine a little bit and see what you did wrong and what was happening with the orchid. If the media is breaking down, I suggest you repot it immediately. Be careful how you fertilize it, and yeah, that's about it on yellowing leaf tips. Alrighty, so I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you have other questions or suggestions for me, just leave me a comment and I'll try to make a video for you. And also don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you want to view even more videos from me. I got a lot coming. Okay, so visit orchidnature.com if you want to share your orchids with us or get some help from our community. And I hope you have a great day. I'll see you next time. Bye!